us on Cool, 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 the podcast that explores intersections of inspiring tech, fascinating people, and captivating stories. And hopefully a combination of all three. So get ready to embrace your inner cool kid as we go behind the scenes with today's innovators and storytellers. I'm your host, Cameron Kitt, CEO and founder of Yo-Yos, which stands for You Own Your Own Stories, a documentary storytelling company. And today I have the privilege and honor of chatting with Erik Clausen, the awesome managing director of strategic comms at CG Life, which is a brand and comms agency specializing in life science and rare disease. Welcome, Erik.
Thanks, Cameron.
Did I get all that right?
You did. I'm happy to be considered cool today.
Today? Well, hopefully. So those listening, you need to go find our LinkedIn and our Insta to just see what Erik looks like, because you look like a professional surfer that has a master's. So,
well, I do get that a little bit given the long hair and the fact I live in San Diego. Fun fact, I can't surf. I'm terrible at it.
You didn't have to say that. You didn't have to let us know that.
I know.
But you do have a science degree, right?
I do. Yeah. I have an undergrad degree in actually in environmental science, but I've been working in science for a very long time.
Very cool. Me as well. And so when we spoke before, we really bonded over some of the cool stuff that you guys have done. I just want to start off by asking, Erik, can you tell me about a client or company you worked with that just really stands out in your memory? Because you guys have you've been there for 20 years?
Yeah.
14.
Yeah. I've been with CG Life for 15 years. But I've been doing this kind of work for 25 years.
Wow.
There are a lot of great stories, a lot of really cool companies that we've had the privilege of working with over that span. I think for me, there are two big ones that jump out. One was earlier in my career, I worked for a company called PowderMed, which was based out of the UK and was developing a DNA-based vaccine technology that would basically make it so you don't have to develop vaccines using eggs, which in the current environment would be very useful as the world is looking at bird flu. So they were developing a technology for delivering DNA-based vaccines directly into the dendritic layer of cells. So it would go into your immune system in a way that's very different biology than egg-based vaccines, how most vaccines are made today. The novel part of that technology was that it would dramatically accelerate the production. So you wouldn't have 6 to 9 months to stockpile vaccines for mass vaccination if, say, a pandemic were to come up. So this was obviously well before COVID that this technology was being developed. The company specifically developed a bird flu vaccine and was running that through clinical trials. And the way that we told that story was more about pandemic preparedness, was about how you could stockpile vaccines in advance or produce them very rapidly if a pandemic broke out in influenza or any other infectious disease. We told a great story. We had massive coverage. The company's valuation went up, and eventually they were bought by a little company called Pfizer.
Aww. That's a happily ever after for any biotech company, right?
It's
for
a happily ever after.
Yeah, to just get absorbed into the mothership and get lifted up. And I mean, there's a lot of benefits to it. That's really cool. So I'm just sorry, I've got to go back to a second. What do you mean egg-based vaccine creation? I'm lost.
So most vaccines are actually developed using a egg-based replication. So in order to develop vaccines for avian flu, for example, you need to use eggs in order to develop that vaccine. Pardon me.
That's interesting. So you felt really good about what you guys did. When you say you told a great story, what did you actually do? You posted articles?
We generated a lot of media coverage. So a lot of the coverage was really around pushing this idea that vaccine development needed to modernize. Vaccines are still more or less, a lot of vaccines are still being developed in the way that they've been developed for the last 40, 50 years. that new technologies to develop vaccines needed to come about. The production time for vaccines is so long that, like we saw during COVID-19, it took an entirely new technology not only to isolate and develop a vaccine using mRNA, but it took it was a magical effort to be able to do it this quickly. But it took more than a year for a vaccine to be isolated, developed, tested, and deployed, and it was
Hmm.
marginally tested.
Wow. Yeah, we were all freaked out about that. I remember.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We were all like, we need it, but do we need it this fast? So that's really interesting that you would. I wonder what was going through your mind having worked with a company that's job was to modernize vaccine creation during the pandemic.
Yeah, a lot of times I was thinking it would have been great to have some of that technology already deployed and available. Uh, or quite frankly, I was thinking, well, maybe Pfizer could go downstairs and find the technology somewhere in their portfolio.
Now
But
I can't find it
Pfizer,
on your web.
Pfizer
Oh,
found a better way in the end.
that's good. That's good. So Eric, I can't find it on the website right now, but remember we talked about that gorgeous set of art posters you made for a client. Can you tell me a little bit about it? It's just like one of my favorite things
Sure.
you guys have done.
Yeah, we developed a campaign for our client Thermo Fisher, and it was really around celebrating the 75th anniversary of the discovery of DNA. And what we what we developed was a series of posters honoring the science and the discovery, to use art to convey what that monumental achievement looked like, and to celebrate it, art and science coming together. I mean, for those that walk the line between creativity and science, anytime you can use art to communicate science, you try to take advantage of that opportunity. So not only did we commissioned and designed these four poster series, we made them available to customers of Thermo Fisher, who could request those and put them up in their labs in their office space. And We were really fortunate. They're beautiful pieces of art, but it also created a lead generation program. So as Thermo Fisher was making these posters available, people are opting in to find out more, to
Oh, that's so
take a look at that.
smart.
And
Oh
also
man.
because it's such a visual piece, it's useful for social media and other platforms. So that was a really successful campaign, kind of a mini campaign that we did for Thermo Fisher.
Yeah, and the visuals are very striking. Like imagine the DNA double helix with animals and plants painted in very bright, vibrant colors. And what really struck me is having spent time in these labs, they are often like these kind of like beige and white
Right.
dead spaces that are like very liminal and like they're staffed by left brain folks who like the idea of like, oh, we could like pop in some art that could make your day better, like make the remind, and then you hadn't mentioned the lead referral. That's really interesting. But what struck me was like, how did you get that approved, right? Which is just like, that was the amazing thing, is that it's really hard often to get something really creative and different approved. Companies, the bigger they get, tend to be more like, I don't know, it depends, right? Some companies have smaller divisions within them. It really depends on who you're working with and when, and who has budget, and who's feeling edgy, and who's feeling safe and secure in their job. I don't know. That's my experience, is like some people, if they're not feeling secure in their job, don't want to take risks. But
Yeah.
what's funny is like, how could making beautiful art be a risk? I don't know. But you've been with this company for 15 years. Can you tell me, Eric, like a plot twist that you guys faced as a business and how you overcame it?
Yeah. I think there have been a few over the years. I think, a big plot twist in the early days was really so many of our peers, of our competing agencies that touch in the world of science, life science, medical, clinical information, either go too far in the direction of being very clinical, very sterile. It's sort of the what you described as the lab space being beige,
Mm-hmm.
or cliche.
Mm-hmm.
Is the other end of the spectrum where science gets dumbed down. There's no understanding of the science, but it's pretty visuals and it's very consumery, but there's no fundamental. So in our early days, we tried to break that mold by recognizing, pointing out that a lot of agencies, a lot of companies that try to do what we do don't understand the science. And we've always had PhDs and scientists as part of our team to be able to honor the science. So we really saw the opportunity to lean into that and say, you have to understand the science, but that doesn't mean, the left brain, right brain can work together. You have to be creative and you have to do good storytelling, but it has to be rooted in the science. And so science has always been our North Star. So I think that early kind of plot twist for us, or insight for us, was as an agency, you can be both scientific and creative at the same time. You can't,
Uh-huh.
you don't have to choose.
Yeah, and there often are a lot of overlaps between the creative and the scientific brain when it comes to making discoveries. You have to be following pathways back and forth across the brain and leaving those spaces open. Um,
Completely.
but that just makes me so I used to work for an animation company that did hand-drawn animation. I think of this company we work with called CST, Cell Signaling Technology.
Yeah.
And like I come from a STEM family, but my degree is in sculpture. And so me and the other artists who they hired, these poor people spent, I don't know, 7 calls trying to explain PCR testing.
Hmm.
And we did our research, but like there was a big disconnect. And like we did end up coming up with analogies that were helpful, but like yeah, to your point, I think that would be like I think the reason they had ended up buying from us is the sunk cost time of the time she had spent on the phone explaining the science to me, that she
Hmm.
like didn't want to do it again. So yeah, so that was a plot twist you guys faced, was like realizing your differentiator, and like how do we lean into that? How do we convince them? Like what did you do? Like show up and be like, I have a degree. Did you know that I also understand the science? Like just earlier in this podcast, you said the word like dendritic, and I was like, oh, there we go. I know what a dendrite is. I don't know what dendritic is. I think some having dendrite-like qualities.
Yeah. Dendritic cells. They're there. They're real.
That means, is that in the brain?
No, it's actually it's beneath the epidermis. So it's beneath your skin
The,
cells.
the biggest organ in the body.
Yes.
Um, all right, so Eric, in the big sense, what's one thing that you wish people knew?
I wish people knew that there's a capital S in the word strategic. I think strategic is so, as a word, I overuse it, but I use it intentionally. I think that it gets thrown around. Pe- People skip to the shiny object, and it's natural, it's understandable. Human behavior is to skip to the tactics, the outcome. You have to go before that and ask a lot of questions. Why are we doing this? Why undertake some effort? Why develop 4 pieces of art that might land in a lab somewhere?
Hmm.
Why are we doing something? And I can't tell you how many times we start talking to a company and they say we need, and they skip to the tactic. We need a website. We need a communications program. We need a new brand. And very quickly you have to ask why. Why? Not just why do you think that you need that? Because that's where you get into some very interesting conversations about your needs, but also what your perception of needs are. And whatever you think you have to do, maybe you don't, maybe there's a better way. So one of the things that we've always prided ourselves on is not committing to a particular service. Sometimes I'll talk to somebody that thinks that they need public relations work, and you start talking about what problem they're trying to solve, and it instantly becomes a different challenge that they're trying to solve that isn't going to do anything for. Or sometimes you get into the conversation and they don't even need an agency. There's some other problem that is there that they need to address. So I think it's being okay asking why, and asking why 5 different ways to get at a strategy, and then figure out how that gets deployed. So I think,
I I love that.
yeah.
Yeah, like I think especially people who I fall into the agency side, right, where like I'm trying to
Mhm.
sell creative. I think it's really easy to forget. Like you see what you it's like you get dollar signs in your eyes. And you're like,
Yeah.
sure, I'll do it. But what
Yeah.
you're saying is you're like, stop. What makes you think you need a new website?
Yeah.
And they say,
So,
well, it
so
doesn't look good. And you're like, okay. Is it
yeah.
converting? Is that kind of how it
Well,
goes?
it is. It's. I mean, Cameron, you probably see this. When people want you to do video work, if it's series, you probably start to wonder what is it that you're trying to accomplish with the project. But like, why? How is this going to
Why?
be used? Where is it
Yeah.
going to go? To
Yeah.
what end? What is it?
Yeah.
What's driving this?
Yes. And
Yeah.
that like customer success ends up being the hardest thing that I've never really met anyone who's figured it out in the video space, where it's
Mm.
like you have to, what I end up doing is I just end up getting on calls with clients for months and months and months after the video's launched to just kind of remind them to do stuff and say, hey,
Hmm.
let's put this out there. But yeah, I have to ask over and over, who is the audience? Who's the audience? Who's the audience? What does success look like? How is it going to be used? Where are we going to put it? Now, all of
Hmm.
those things are super necessary. But I think what you're saying is even that's just like discovery. What you're saying is strategy is a bigger thing. Why are we doing this in general? Why are we telling patient stories in general? Why are we
Yeah.
making a video? What's the
Yeah.
point? We could be making a blog post. Is that what we actually need? And so
Right.
I have told clients before, I don't think you need this.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
hurts, but it's also like I can't in good conscience say, I don't, yeah, you guys don't need this right now. I
Yeah.
think you need something
I,
else, or you need to wait.
I've definitely
Um,
talked some clients out of using our services, but
mhm,
where it was appropriate, where it's like, I think you should do this other thing, and that's not us. Or
mhm,
sometimes it is, yes, it's us, but it's not in the way that you think that it is.
mhm.
Um, and I think that's more meaningful. I also have found that that is not only is it the right way to operate, just generally, I have found that that lands better results, because then at that point you're actually thought partners together. You're trying to you're trying to solve a larger problem together, rather than being transactional and being a vendor. You're partners in
Yeah.
that conversation.
And you want them to win in the bigger
You
sense
want
instead
them
of
to
just
win.
saying, "Sure, I'll update your page." That's a
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think that is the ultimate win-win. Like, but so maybe you should say like director of thoughtful comms.
I like that.
Like, because that's what I'm hearing that strategic means. Strategic means like stop and think, which not many of us are good at. So I think that sounds like another one of you guys' superpowers. But speaking of our companies, this podcast is brought to you by Yo-Yos. You own your own stories, a documentary storytelling company that demystifies cutting edge technology with emotional human stories. If you've got a cool story to share, we can help you get it out there. So, Eric, I want to ask you another question with your permission, and that is, can you tell me a time you guys took a big risk and it paid off? This could be internal or it could be with a client, like, and maybe it didn't pay off. Like, it took a big risk in your memory and like whether or not it worked.
I think I think our biggest risk was probably the the last few years at CG Life, because as an agency, it was less focused on a risk with a client and more a risk with us. So we actually, as an agency, brought on a private equity partner, and as entrepreneurs, to risk bringing on a partner to help your business grow, accelerate your growth, enable open up new opportunities to grow through acquisition, but also to reimagine your own brand. That was a big risk for us. I was very fortunate. For most of my time, I have three business partners at CG Life,
Yep.
and we made a difficult decision, not difficult decision, I guess a very careful and thoughtful decision to bring on a private equity partner to keep us growing. And so we made that decision in 2022
Yeah.
to go from completely owning and controlling your own brand to bringing in thoughtful, good partners to be able to do that. That's a big risk,
It's a big
and
risk.
there's so many ways it can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do all the due diligence and consideration you want, but at some point you have to do it. It's a bit of a leap of faith,
Yeah.
and we did the leap of faith, and it has paid off. We've grown substantially. We've more than doubled the size of the agency in 2 years. As a result, we're working, we're positioned now to,
Wait.
yeah,
Doubled in 2 years
in
because
two
of
years.
cash infusion? Nice.
Cash infusion, bringing in strategic partners, identifying new opportunities. And
Wow.
we've done two acquisitions that have really repositioned the agency. While life science continues to be our sort of bread and butter, science is
Mm-hmm.
our North Star.
Mm-hmm.
We are now supporting companies to commercial biopharma. So we're
Okay.
a rare disease and precision medicine launch agency now, and that has it really allowed us to be able to extend from preclinical all the way through to commercial biotherapeutics.
Because you
It's
go
been a
ahead.
great ride.
Because you know who needs comms is rare diseases, like rare vision loss diseases that only 1,000 people have. They need
Yes.
comms so desperately.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, that's so cool. All right. Well, we only have a few minutes left.
Sure.
I told you a little bit before. I was like, oh wow, I'm really into gene therapy. I'm into sci-fi. Like, where is this happening? What do you think is like your biggest prediction for the future of both these spaces? Like, what do you think is the biggest change that's going to be coming?
Whew. I'm
Yeah,
not great at making
quickly.
I'm not great at making predictions because I don't like to look foolish in 6 months when I'm wrong. Um,
Mm,
but the cell and gene space, I think, is just generally speaking is so exciting for rare disease and for other areas. We are in an era now where the ability to edit genes, cell and gene get lumped together. They're slightly different but similar technologies. But we're in an era now where we're literally able to edit out disease. I I'm strengthened by the fact that the FDA over the last 2 or 3 years has really increased their and accelerated their approval process for cell and gene therapies. There, I think early on, 10, 15 years ago, when you talked about cell and gene, people rolled their eyes. 5 years ago, they thought this was going to be an overnight uh, class of medicines. The reality is it takes time for these technologies to actually be deployed and show success, but we're
dang.
seeing that
Yeah, we always
now.
forget about that, right? Like it's sort of like
Yeah.
what we talked about at the very beginning. It's like we can't do it. Well, Eric, this is so awesome. I'm sorry, you have one more thing?
Oh, I was just going to say, we are seeing year over year FDA approving more cell and gene therapies. I think we're just about, we're seeing the benefits of that.
Let's go. So my last question for you, Eric, is who do you think would be a phenomenal guest on the show?
Ooh.
Hmm.
Oh, like, is this one of those like dead or alive, anybody? Or
No, this is like, can you
like
make a referral?
practical reality real? Who? Who would be a great guest on the show? Way to put me on the spot.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the whole point.
yeah, I would say, I think a great guest. That's a tough one. I'm,
Don't worry,
I'm
we get
sorry,
it. It's
Cameron.
part
I'm
of.
drawing a
It's all
blank.
good. It's all good. All right. Eric, it's all good. All right. Thank you so much for listening to Cool, Cool, Cool. I'm Cameron Kitt from Yo-Yo's. A huge thank you to Erik Clausen from CG Life for sharing the story of your agency and some of the things you guys have done. Check out the show notes for a link to CG Life's page, which is brand new and looks gorgeous. I don't know if it's brand new, but it looks amazing.
It is brand
And
new. Thank you.
it looks brand new. And let us know what you thought about this episode on social media using the hashtag CoolCoolCoolPodcast. Eric, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.